second that this call is being recorded. That way, our friends who are not able to join us today can listen um, later on. But for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Mary. I'm the regional training manager out here. I hope that you guys all know who I am at this point. But I'm excited. I actually had the privilege of presenting on the very first soft skills call that we did, gosh, way back quite a few months ago. And so I'm excited today to join you all again and be the presenter today instead of just the facilitator. So without further ado, we can go ahead and jump right in. And I chose today's topic to be establishing credibility. With our managers in training, we had quite a few of us who graduated within the last few months, which means we have quite a few managers who are new in role out there in the field. And honestly, one of the hardest things to do as a new manager is to establish credibility within your team, especially as an internal promotion. And I know a lot of us out there are internal promotions. So when I was going through and looking at the topics that I have set aside for these calls, and I came across establishing credibility. I thought it was a very pertinent topic to a lot of us and where we currently are in our careers with PF Chang. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. So now that you are in your current role, you've gained your insight into your work style, it's time to focus on building that credibility. And by credibility, I simply mean your believability. It's really your greatest asset as a manager. And it's something that you can build over time by demonstrating that you can be counted on. You've earned your title as a manager, and while your title gives you formal authority, it doesn't mean that everyone will automatically listen and take your direction. You must establish credibility and trust in order to lead and influence others. And that's a key word there, influencing others. You do this by being responsive and follow through on your commitments, be open to the ideas of others, and build your reputation of credibility slowly over time. Another really key element there that it takes a long time to build credibility. It's not something that you're able to create overnight. However, acting like you know it all is a surefire way to lose credibility. No one expects you to have all the answers. It's perfectly acceptable to say, I don't know, but let me find out. You will gain credibility and respect from others if you are honest and take responsibility. It is when you are consistent and fair, honest and humble, and understand that you and everyone else are works in progress that a strong foundation of credibility is formed. And I really like this quote here that's shared on the screen. The more you are willing to accept responsibility for your actions, the more credibility you will have. So I'd like to take this moment here to share an example of a time when I personally struggled with establishing credibility. I shared that many of us on the line are internal promotions, and I myself was actually also an internal promotion. I started in my restaurant as a host and worked my way across just about every hourly position in the restaurant. And for everyone who's grown internally, you know how hard it can be, especially as an hourly team member, especially as a lead, to draw that line between yourself and your fellow hourly team members. And I went from being a host over many years, growing eventually into an operating partner role. And a lot of the team members that still worked for me as an operating partner were team members that trained me when I was a team member myself. So it took me a while to learn, and I got to be honest with you guys, where to draw that line with those people that at one point were my mentor and now are my mentee. And honestly, the best advice that I could give you guys is what we already spoke to, that admitting sometimes you don't know all the answers. I had to turn to these folks quite often and say, you know what do you think is the best way to do this, instead of just blindly telling them to do what I wanted them to because I said so. When I made that switch from trying to force them to do what I wanted to involving them and really looking for their support, they went from resisting every change that I tried to make within that restaurant to supporting them and being champions of those change. So just I really implore you to take that step back when you have the opportunity. And if you truly don't know the answer to something, to be honest with yourself and be honest with that person that you don't know the answer, and that we're going to go find the answer together. So not all of us are perfect. I know my job right now is to be the subject matter expert for everything. And a lot of you guys on the line have heard me say, you know what? I don't know. Let's go find out together. So just know that it's okay to say that. And I want you to think to yourself right now, everyone on the line. You don't need to share right now, but I want to give you a moment to think within your working career. And this could be here at PF Chang's, or this could be if you worked with previous concepts or in previous workforces. But I want you to think about who was the most credible manager you have ever worked with? Who was that person? And then, what qualities did this person display that made you believe in them? Why did you find them credible? What did they do? What did they say? Now, I want you to think about this, manager, as we continue through today's presentation, because we're going to talk about how you establish your own credibility. And a lot of it starts with the language that you use. It really creates the believability that you have as a manager. We all know today's workplace has become a lot more casual. We're working with a very young workforce, and in turn, it's easy to adopt some of their language. And goodness knows, the youth of today have quite the lingo. However, you should use the same professional language with your employees that you would with your guests so that they can model the same behavior. Now, I'm going to go through some common phrases here on the screen. Feel free to drop in the chat any commentary you may have. And a lot of this is probably not new, but the first one being um, say you have just sat a guest at a table. The guest is thanking you for giving them that table. Your response shouldn't be no problem, because that implies that there was a problem to begin with. Instead, using phrases like, of course, my pleasure, or absolutely. These three phrases really could be the response to just about anything within our restaurant. You know, thank you for this delicious meal. Thank you for a great shift. Absolutely. It was my pleasure. This next one, say you're taking a guest's order. Instead of saying something like, what else? Is that all? That's kind of abrupt. What if they just ordered a lot of food? It's just not very polite. It's kind of judgmental almost. So a more appropriate version being, would you care for anything else? You're just asking their preference. You're not passing any judgment upon their dining experience with us today. The next one being, all right, a guest has walked in the front doors. You should not be greeting them with something like, hi, guys, or howdy, folks. So believe it or not, some people are very offended with an informal greeting. Instead, try to get in your vocabulary something along the lines of, hello, welcome to PF Chang's. Welcome in, everyone. Something closer to that. And then, especially when you are giving team members direction, you should stray away from anything that involves emotion. So you shouldn't say anything like, I want you to clean it this way, or I think that, or I believe that. They don't really care what you think or what you believe or what you want. Instead, give them the why. Why does it need to be done that way? We want you to clean this way because. Take your emotion out of the equation. It's not about what you think, want, or feel. It's about what needs to be done. So think about, in other words, or in what other ways can you use your words? What other phrases can be more powerful in the way that you speak? And next, do you dress the part? That old saying, dress for success, is still very true today. Your appearance can immediately speak to your credibility as a manager. How you dress can immediately form a perception in the minds of those around you regarding what type of manager you will be. An unshaven face and a sloppy, wrinkled appearance could lead others to believe you will not be organized or don't really care about details. As a manager, you will have to counsel employees about how they dress and appear to your guests. You never want to tell an employee that he or she needs to shave or shower when you yourself have had days when you have not. You instantly lose credibility in their eyes. Whether you know it or not, your employees and other managers will notice those days when you arrive unkempt or not up to high standards. Make sure that you are familiar with your manager dress code and follow it. So you guys might recognize this brand spanking new manager appearance standards I have here on the screen, featuring our beautiful models there dressed to the tens, looking great. And think to yourself, am I coming to work every day looking as well as I would expect my team members to? And the same thing for our chef team. Are we wearing clean chef pants and chef coats every day? Are we always wearing a hat and practicing food safety in that regard? And that really brings me to one of my favorite things to talk about. You guys recognize this, right? It's our brand frame. Well, one of our brand frame elements is very important when it comes to establishing credibility. And that element is every day, every time. Every interaction you have with a team member builds or breaks down credibility. When dealing with sticky situations between employees or with an angry guest, you can gain instant credibility by listening first before jumping in with opinions or excuses. Seek first to understand before being understood, and you will be viewed as fair and consistent. You don't always have to agree with your employees to be a good leader, and in fact, sometimes being the popular manager isn't the best thing. So there's a few things I want to unpack here, you guys. Seek first to understand before being understood. If someone's not using a tray to bring their drinks to their table, why? Were there no trays to be found? Did they think they were supposed to use a tray, or did they think it was okay not to use a tray? Seek to understand first, because for all you know, maybe that team member already knows what they're doing is wrong, or maybe they thought what they were doing was right. And when you attack them by telling them that they're wrong, you're just hurting their spirit, you're breaking them down. And then also, being the popular manager isn't always the best thing. Just because your team members like you doesn't mean that you're doing a great job managing them. Those difficult team member conversations, they're hard to have, but they're how you show your team that you're going to set them up for success and how you're going to ensure that they have the best working environment and have all the tools that they need to be successful. That one day that you don't get on to someone for showing up late, you're telling that team member and the other team members that it's okay to show up whenever you want and that I'm not going to hold you accountable to it. Or even, I'm going to hold one person accountable, but I'm not going to hold the next. That inconsistency really, really hurts your credibility as a manager. And there's a reason we put every day, every time on our brand frame. Our team wants to know what to expect when they come to work. And our guests want to know what to expect when they come to dine with us. They come to us because we're PF Chang's and we're recognizable, not because we're some hole in the wall and every experience can be completely different. So as you are walking around today and tomorrow and the next month and year, think to yourself, am I being consistent in my work? Am I being consistent in my expectations for my team member and also for my guests? Now, you guys, I would love if you guys would unmute or even just type in the chat. I have the chat pulled up on my end, but we have a quick activity or a discussion. I would love to have your input. So, situation here. Johnny is a long-term team member. He's worked for us for a long time. Your guests love him. He always follows the service standards to a T. However, Johnny is often late. He looks unkempt, and many of the team members have come to you because they feel the other managers look the other way and let him break the rules. So Johnny's a great team member, but we're letting him get away with some bad behaviors. How would you guys handle this situation? And this might be easier if we break it down a little bit. Who would you talk to first? So Feel free to unmute and share with the group. If you're not comfortable unmuting in front of everyone, drop it in the chat. But who would you talk to first? Team Riverside said they would go straight to Johnny. Does anyone disagree with that?
I could be wrong, but I feel like I would want to talk to our other managers and see if we're all holding Johnny accountable.
I like that. Some Marianne in the chat also said, let's talk to the fellow managers. So there's not necessarily a right answer to this, but we can take this two different ways. Going to the manager first or going to Johnny first, but regardless, we're going to talk to both, right? And then what would you say to those employees that have come to you, those people that have come and vocalized their concern?
Definitely thank them for their concern, but let them know that you're going to start looking into it.
Yeah, I like that, Marianne. You know, acknowledging that they've brought something forward, not just dismissing them, but also not promising them or necessarily involving them in whatever happens afterwards. I like it. Would anyone else say something different to those team members? All right. Well, like I said, not a right answer to the situation, but I think we're all on the same page that we need to get Johnny up to the standards that we hold everyone else. We were just speaking to this. If we allow Johnny to be late and we allow him to not live up to our appearance standards, we're telling all of the other team members that it's okay for them to do that too. That they can break the rules and the rules are meant to be broken. Just because he's a great team member doesn't mean we let him get away with murder. So whether you go to Johnny first or you go to your fellow managers first, we're definitely going to speak to both of those groups and ensure we're on the same page. And like Marianne said, thanking those team members for coming forward and sharing their concerns with us. So to recap, we're going to make an agreement today. There are 5 statements here on the screen we're going to review. And they are this week and every week after, my words will be supported by my actions. We don't do what we say and not what we do here. If I say I'm going to, you need to show up to work in proper work apparel, that means I also need to show up in proper work apparel. Statement number 2, I will understand that I am still learning and ask questions when needed. Honestly, this is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to build credibility. Is to admit when you don't know what the answer is and to seek it out nonetheless, to show that you are still willing to learn and grow yourself. Statement number 3, I will admit when I am wrong. We are not perfect, you guys, and that's okay. We are all going to make mistakes, and it's how we recover from those mistakes, how we choose to move forward, that is so much more important than the mistake itself. It speaks so much more to your personality, your ability as a manager to admit that I made a bad decision, but that I'm going to stand here and I'm going to figure out a solution with you guys. We are, I like to call it navigators. We're ship navigators. A lot of us sometimes get stuck, and I know I was an offender of this as well when I was a manager, that you feel like you have to make the right decision the first time. And sometimes you'll even sit there and worry about it so much that you'll never make the decision in the first place. But our role as a manager is to make that decision and to navigate what comes after it. You've been given the tools that you need to make a great decision. It may not be the best decision, but you need to make a decision. And then your role is now to help navigate the waters in the direction that you chose. Statement number 4, I will display a role model appearance. You're going to come to work. I'm going to come to work. We're going to come in our best work apparel. My blazer's going to be clean. My shoes are going to be non-slip. I'm going to have clean pants on that are not too tight, not too loose, not frayed at the bottom. That whatever I ask of my team members, I'm going to expect of myself. And last, but certainly not least, I will act with humility while getting to know my team. That When you are a manager, you're not the best player anymore. A lot of us used to be the best player, and that's why we are now a manager, but we're not players anymore. We're now coaches. And our role is to be the best coach. And so, understanding that you need to build up your players and let them be the best player and develop them into the best player. And that requires a certain level of humility. It doesn't mean talking about how great you used to be or telling people that you would have done something differently. It's about helping build your team and developing them into the best team that they can be. Remember, we're coaches, not team members anymore, not players. And so I ask you guys, I'm going to leave you with this question and I'm going to challenge you all. What are you going to do this next week to continue to establish credibility with your team? Are you going to come to work in the best work apparel? Are you going to admit when you are wrong? Are you going to act with that humility we just spoke to? Whatever it may be, I implore you, choose what you're going to do this next week to continue to establish credibility and work toward it. All right. Well, we have a short one today, you guys, but I appreciate your time as always. I'm going to pause here. Does anyone have any questions or anything they want to share about establishing credibility? Okie dokie, artichokes. Well, that's all from me today. Like I said at the top of the call, I hope you guys all have a great Galentine's Day and an even better Valentine's Day tomorrow. Please, as always, reach out if you need anything, but let's work on establishing credibility these next 2 weeks, and I look forward to catching all up with you all again here soon. Thank you all and have a great day.
Thanks, Mary.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Mary.